This is the program that shows you the side of police chase videos they didn't want you to see. Bungled arrests, kamikaze crooks and cop-based carnage of all kinds. Welcome to Cops Uncut, the real car crash TV.
On my way.
Coming up on Cops Uncut. A policeman uses the rare tactic of hair pulling. A Jeep driver misreads the rules of off-roading. And this hot cop gets an offer he really can refuse.
I might blow on you, baby.
No, we can't do that.
In Kentucky, a report has come in that the woman in this car has been driving erratically, so the local sheriff's department has packed off 2 of its finest to investigate. You'd have thought that these cops might have been able to hold on to their suspect long enough to ask her a few simple questions. But it seems these officers are slow learners, because when they catch up with the suspect again, she simply pulls the exact same stunt as before and drives off. She leads them down countless winding streets, occasionally pausing to toy with her pursuers a little. It's clear that she's running rings round these cops, literally. While the bungling troopers busy themselves with the complicated process of turning their cars around, the fugitive almost slips away. Luckily, they manage to track her down again. The woman pulls over once more. Both officers are out of their squad cars in a flash, weapons drawn and trained on the lady. This time, they're determined that she's not going to make a fool of them. But then, as the suspect approaches them, they back away. The woman looks like she's holding a gun, but it's entirely possible that she's just pretending by pointing 2 fingers inside a bag. Either way, she makes nicking this squad car look as easy as stealing Smarties from kiddies. But if you thought that this pair of comedy cops couldn't look any more stupid, have a quick look at that sequence again. Because in all the fuss, you may well have missed the moment when the shorter officer trips and falls face first into the snow. While little and large lick their wounds, the pursuit continues. The woman is later captured, presumably by slightly more competent officers, and charged with a number of crimes. These Kentucky Fried Cops are obviously bargain bucket material. Their suspect leads them round in circles, and they fall for some of the oldest tricks in the book. In fact, this slapstick double act managed to make a total farce of the force.
260 at the corner. On my way.
On Cops Uncut, we've seen a lot of drunk drivers misbehaving on the roads. Now we're about to see what happens when you take one back to the station, courtesy of this Arkansas police surveillance video.
You'll be administered a breath test to determine your blood alcohol content.
Yes, I will.
If you take the
Yes,
test,
I will.
if you take the test, you make your
Good
experience.
looking motherfucker.
Have a physician qualified.
Good
to take
looking
this.
motherfucker. You're so beautiful to me. Y'all just don't understand nothing because you're beautiful.
The woman is clearly blinded by love, or perhaps booze. Her emotions swing randomly from romance
So beautiful.
Now listen to me.
You're beautiful.
Which part?
to remorse,
I know I'm drunk.
to anger,
They make me mad because they say I can't vote.
What'd they say?
and then all the way back to romance again.
Okay.
No, because you're beautiful, brown eyes.
Sign that.
She offers a possible reason for her disposition.
I'm Irish.
You are.
Yes, I'm Irish. Hot-blooded. Hot-blooded.
Okay.
Yes, you better know I'm hot-blooded, boy. Them fucking motherfuckers down there don't know who I am. They think I ain't nobody. I I got news
Just a
for
minute,
him.
just a minute, I'll
I'm
give you that time.
somebody. Laugh, motherfucker, down there.
It's definitely not the uniform, because she's clearly not as keen on Officer Walker's off-camera colleagues.
That son of a bitch right there thinks I'm better than me.
Well, that's okay.
Look him, hold it, look him. I'm gonna blow.
The woman finally signs the form, and the brave patrolman's persistence appears to have paid off.
I ain't somebody.
But then the breathalyzer opens up a new Pandora's box of problems.
She's gonna tell you how to blow in this machine, okay?
I never blow on that fucking machine.
You're not gonna blow on it for me?
I'm not blowing on you, baby.
No, we can't do that. Sit down.
She's getting frisky again.
Oh, you haven't taken the test yet.
Well, come here, boy. Come here.
Just a minute.
I'm gonna kiss you. I wanna kiss you.
But her playful mood suddenly sours.
Why on earth did God create the world?
Sadly, the old dear firing up the breathalyzer just isn't qualified to answer that one.
Machine.
I need to go home.
Well, you got to blow in this machine, and then we can work away.
Why?
Because that's the law. Okay? It's the law. Okay? Blow until she tells you to stop blowing it, and we'll get you.
Predictably, the breath test proves to be something of a struggle.
Put it in your mouth and blow until I tell you to stop.
But at least it provides Officer Walker with the perfect opportunity to do his impression of another famous Arkansas personality, former President Bill Clinton.
Don't stop. Keep blowing. 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 Don't stop. Keep blowing. There you go. There you go.
Well, I just
This lady's clearly walking the thin blue line between love
so beautiful.
and hate.
Son of a bitch right there thinks I'm better than me. No,
But after blowing hot and cold for these Arkansas cops,
why?
she finally gives everyone a bit of a breather.
She's going to tell you how to blow in this machine, okay?
I never blow on that fucking machine.
You're not going to blow on it for me?
I'm not blowing on you, baby.
No, we can't do that.
Still to come, fireworks on this New Jersey highway. And some unexpected cop-on-cop action. Like cockfighting and bear baiting, catfights aren't permitted in many American states. So if you're out on patrol and you see some nighttime girl-on-girl action in progress, here's how to break it up. First, use tactics that your suspects will be familiar with. Hair pulling, for example, works rather well. Standing around with a torch, however, is slightly less helpful. As well as the woman wrestlers, be wary of any spectators that may have gathered. Audience members will usually be young males in varying stages of undress. And as the action continues, some may even attempt to shed yet more clothing. Once you've prized the harpies apart, the show's over and all bets are off. But bear in mind that the guy who has already lost his shirt might not react well when you steal his girl. So remember, the first rule of Catfight Club is don't talk about Catfight Club. Unless you're a cop, in which case you can do pretty much whatever you want, including hair pulling, leg dragging, and even torch shining.
Taking off again.
Over on the Jersey Turnpike, this nighttime chase is going swimmingly. At least it was until the bright spark in the stolen Toyota makes a wrong move at this junction. He ends up showering melted metal and bits of his motor right in the path of the pursuing cops. The firework display is highly entertaining for everyone except the criminal, who's forced to pull over his crippled Toyota at the side of the road. Within seconds, a jumbo cop has the door open, and his colleague carefully checks his equipment before he dives in, just to make sure he doesn't make an improper arrest. When this stolen motor clips a wing, the cops behind are treated to a golden shower, and for a moment it looks like this one might be about to return the favor. Here's a good argument for not driving a 4x4. Let's have another look at that. The Arizona trooper in this squad car just finished giving the guy in this red car here a speeding ticket and has accidentally left his dashboard camera switched on. So when the driver of this SUV loses control on the bend, the whole spectacular crash is caught on tape. It might look pretty severe, but in true A-Team Jeep crash style, no one's seriously hurt. Coming up on Cops Uncut, this criminal courier gets copped. There's some extracurricular activity from this Rosa, and a fleeing crook heads for the bar. This driver does his level best to hide his unease when he notices there's a cruiser on his rear. As soon as the road is clear, he can't hold back any longer and mashes the throttle. The cops follow, and it's not long before he's notched up a string of violations, including speeding and reckless driving. By now, the policeman is so intent on catching the runaway that he fails to notice other crimes taking place around him. Perhaps he should have been paying more attention to this guy, for example, who appears to have stolen a whole house. The runaway pulls several dangerous stunts and even manages to avoid the heavy traffic by sneaking down the shoulder. But just as he starts to gain some distance, he slams into another motor. The chase might be finally over, but the fun has barely started.
31.
A second cruiser arrives. Good news for the first officer because he's going to need all the help he can get. Both troopers approach the suspect's car, weapons drawn, while the suspect exits Dukes of Hazzard style through the window. The cops notice that the man is armed with something, so this officer gives him a quick pop with his taser, a stun gun that delivers an electrical charge using small metal darts. Shock tactics have little effect though. The guy just rips out the darts and carries on. As the mayhem continues, the road is closed and more cops arrive to join the game. But even with half a dozen cops all trying to zap him with their tasers, the suspect resolutely refuses to go down. He approaches the dash cam of the original cruiser and we can see that his weapon is in fact just a screwdriver. But the police have had enough, so just off camera they shoot him again, and this time not with a taser. Though his wounds aren't fatal, Screwdriver Guy has been neutralized. But he's not necessarily the only tool-wielding maniac at the scene. In fact, the shooting officer didn't just hit Screwdriver Man, he also shot his mate. In slow motion, you can see the cop's bullet kick up dust here as it ricochets off the road and hits his colleague square in the leg. This guy kept the police chasing him for hours and closed off a whole highway with his hijinks. But while this taser-proof crook is definitely one screwdriver short of a toolbox, it's this stupid, trigger-happy cop who puts two people in an ambulance. Police chases don't always involve four wheels. This guy, for instance, is managing to cause the North Carolina police a big headache with just two. The cops are having a few difficulties employing their usual intervention techniques. Largely because every time they almost catch up with him, the guy just nails it through the traffic. But the police are determined to capture this easy rider. Because as well as an impressive list of traffic violations, the biker also has something highly illegal stashed in his saddlebags. He is, in fact, a bike courier for a renowned dope dealer, and the police are desperate to relieve him of his contraband. So, when he misjudges this sharp bend, the cruiser doesn't hesitate in taking advantage of an unsteady moment to squash the guy flat, proving the point that when it comes to head-on collisions, 4 wheels good, 2 wheels bad. This bloke's unorthodox delivery service adds a fresh twist to the term drug trafficking. His crotch rocket might win in terms of speed and agility, but when it comes to the crunch, it turns out he's a total pushover. Still to come, this driver goes for pole position, and this disgruntled dustman goes on a rubbish rampage.
Taking off again.
How to get arrested. If you're a cop, one of the quickest ways of getting yourself arrested is to use something called unreasonable force, which is the legal term for what often happens when American police get too carried away. Remember, just because you've got a little pent-up frustration and your adrenaline levels are running high, it's important not to take it out on the next poor sap you come across by kicking the crap out of him. And when the entire incident is caught on camera, you'll be quietly led to one side while another, less angry cop finishes the arrest. An outburst like this is the perfect way to get yourself booted off the force, especially when your superiors witness just how much of a kick you've been getting from your job.
260 at the corner. On my way. Driver, step back to me with your license, please.
Despite the unsightly bird turd on this cop's windscreen, this routine traffic stop got off to a relatively friendly start.
How you doing?
But it's not long before things start to get complicated.
Do you know why I'm pulling you over today? Trailer that you were following, little camper trailer, you're required to keep what's called a 2-second following distance. It usually works out to be about 1 calling for every 10 miles an hour speed that you're going.
When the suspect's joined by his passenger, the situation gets even more confusing.
Who's Maria?
Maria Scott.
It's clear the cop doesn't keep up with modern street language.
Your cousins? I thought you were brothers.
Yeah, brothers.
All the same, the story is suspicious enough for the officer to pursue his investigations further, so he calls in the sniffer dogs and performs his own thorough search of the suspects, leaving no stone or tissue unturned.
George, 10 IND.
The suspects are getting a bit twitchy. Sensing an imminent bust, the driver decides to make a break for freedom.
Get out! Get out! Get out! I'll kill you! I'll kill you! I'll kill you!
And despite 4 cops, a dog, and a hair trigger, the suspect still gets away.
He's inside! He's inside! I shot him!
This dramatic escape, though, has left the suspect seriously injured. And as the cops close in on the runaway, he gets desperate and ditches some incriminating evidence in a car park. Our cop stops to pick up the gear. But it's another 150 miles before the other officers stop the wounded fugitive's road trip. Both the suspect and his cousin, or is it brother, are busted for possession. What started as a simple tailgating
Works out to be about 1 calling for every 10 miles an hour speed that you're going.
ended up as a drugs bust gone wrong.
Hey! Get out! Get out! Get out! I'll kill you! Don't you move! I'll kill you!
Despite our officers giving it their best shot.
I shot him! He's been shot!
However good a driver you might be, having a cop car up your exhaust can make you do some pretty stupid things. For the most part, the suspect in the car in front seems to be handling the pressure reasonably well. He seems particularly good at driving in a straight line, for example, and plays to his strengths by doing so for miles and miles. In fact, it's only when he veers from his linear path that things go horribly wrong. And the pursuit is brought to a rather abrupt end. This guy should have just stuck to the straight and narrow. Instead, he comes a cropper when he's chased by the coppers from pillar to post. Over to Iowa, where this cop is speeding through the traffic to help his mate stop a suspected stolen vehicle. But this is no small fry carjacking. The thief has boosted a rubbish truck and nothing is going to get in his way. In fact, the guy is a disgruntled dustman who, for reasons best known to himself, has pinched a truck from work and gone mental. Now he's got 6 police cruisers after him as he piles through the traffic on the wrong side of this dual carriageway. It might not be the fastest chase in the world, but the cops are at a total loss. Any other car thief would have been rammed off the road by now, but with a vehicle of this size, ramming is probably not going to do a whole lot of good. All the police can do is stay on the bin man's trail and swerve to avoid the occasional debris that falls out of its mashup. Clearly running out of ideas, one officer actually makes an attempt to tackle the monster truck on foot. Not a good idea. Then the cops get a lucky break. Struggling with the incline of this gentle slope, the rubbish cart slowly comes to a dead stop. Armed police descend from all sides and the refuse collectors' rubbish revolt is finally brought to an end. If he'd been playing Grand Theft Auto, this guy might have earned extra points for stealing a garbage truck. But in the real world, he's just, well, rubbish. Let's recap an average day on Cops Uncut. 2 cops lost their cruiser in this scene of stupidity. There was some girl-on-girl action. Some unprovoked overturning for this off-roader. One cop shot another cop during this bungled arrest. And finally, some good old-fashioned American justice. Be careful out there.